I've mowed this over a few days now and trying to figure out how I feel about this movie. So I'm talking about Eternal, so I'm going to kind of do a power review, and I'm going to first keep the first part very spoiler light. Actually, no, spoiler free. And then I'm going to talk about the things I had some issues with, giving it the ratings and whatnot. I seen it actually last week, and I've been mowing it over because there's been some stuff that's been bothering me about the film. Now, I want the film to succeed, mainly because I do like the actors in the movie, so they did an extremely good job. I want, for example, John Lee, I said David Lee, to actually start breaking out into America. He is the Korean guy that played Gilgamesh. He did a phenomenal job. I really like him. The first major time he ever stood out to me was in Train to Busan. From there, I've seen him in a couple other Korean films. He's phenomenal. Just so you're aware, Gemma Chan played Cersei. She can manipulate matter. Richard Madden played Icarus. He's basically Superman. He can fly, has super strength, eye beams. Kumail Nanjiani played Kingo. In this movie, he can blast things from his fingers and kind of charge up, almost like a Mega Man thing. And then you have, I'm trying to remember, Leah McHugh, I think her name is, the girl that played Sprite. She, to me, was one of the best character depictions I've seen in a film accurate to the comic book. They all did a good job, but some of the characters were a little bit out of character. But they played her very close to the, to who she is. And you have Brian Henry that played Fastos, black guy. He can create technology. Lauren Riddle, I think her name is Lauren Ridloff. I know she's on Walking Dead. She played Makari. Makari has super speed. And trying to remember, Don Lee, of course, like I said, played Gilgamesh. There was a guy named Handsome Patel. He played this character. I think his name was Kadarum or Kudarum. Whatever his name was, he was actually a standout character in the movie. It was another one of those side characters that really, really, really stood out. Kit Harington played Dane Whitman. If you're a comic book fan, you know who Dane Whitman is. Let you know now, if you know who Dane Whitman is and you are a comic book fan, you are expecting a certain thing from that character, you get a little bit of it, but you're going to kind of be a little disappointed, because my friend was when he was next to me, because he wanted to see something and he didn't. Also, too, they dumped his character down a bit in some aspects as well, because I actually, surprise, surprise, Dane Whitman as a character, especially when he uses a different weapon later, not the one that gets mentioned. Then Saya Hayek, who is my all-time favorite female actress, 09, as the top. She played Ajak. She could heal, and she could communicate with the Celestials. So, like I said, the second half will be more in-depth about where I had some issues and some confusions. What I didn't like about the movie right off the bat, they completely changed the origin story, which in turn kind of messed up another story. But I guess it was a way to kind of explain, for a comic book nerd like myself, to explain why they didn't interfere with the Thanos situation. Basically, the Eternals are dealing with the Deviants. their job is to fight the deviants, to stop them so humanity can go on its evolutionary course, stuff like that. But they changed the origin of the deviants. They changed the origins of the Eternals. I personally did not really like it. I thought it was unnecessary, but it was for dramatic effect. And there's a few things in this movie I thought was unnecessary. Now, what I will say is, finally, all the stuff is here. The actors actually did a very good job. Every actor brought what they were supposed to do for that thing, and I give them all the props in the world for that. They did a fantastic job when it came down to what they needed to accomplish. This part, I don't consider it a spoiler, because for like 3 years, all I ever heard them do was talk about Eternals and this beautiful kiss and this amazing gay kiss, and if you don't like it, you're ignorant, and blah, 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 blah. The kiss was just a normal kiss, and the fact that there's countries and stuff kind of going off was kind of weird, because it wasn't like a big deal. I mean, I guess to these places it was, because Marvel refused to move the kiss, and at the same time, because it was supposed to be some kind of beautiful scene to them, and to me it was just, I mean, maybe it's because I think differently. I was like, it's just regular people, do dads and whatnot, or do guys, okay. But I do get what people were saying, it felt a little forced. And then they had this relationship between two of the Eternals that was kind of weird, because it was like a off again, on again. There was like something there, but they never pulled the trigger, and that was weird. But I found out later the director liked the chemistry of the actors, and so the director decided just to have them rewrite the script and add that into the movie, which it does come off a little weird, only because it's not that they didn't have the chemistry. It was weird because without a follow through, it was like you could tell it was tacked on. Visuals was beautiful, scenery was beautiful. Seeing the Celestial, that was cool to see how they did it, especially when you got to see the judging Celestial. I'm probably saying his name wrong right now. Amaterasu. And I know I'm saying it wrong just because I got a lot, other stuff in my brain. But the story kind of becomes a little cliche. And I know some people probably be like, well, no. And I haven't really seen anybody talk about it. And I kind of also waited to see if anybody was going to bring this up. And I know some people might say I'm looking too deep, but honestly, I'm really not. They simplified the Eternals' powers. Now, a quick little thing, like I said, more will come in the spoiler back end. All the Eternals have the exact same abilities. What happens is, just like any other person or anyone else, like, for example, most humans, they have their highs and lows, but let's say every person kind of started at the same place. But I like to run, and you like to lift weights. So what happens is that I'm super strong, you're super strong, but you're going to be stronger than me because of the fact that you lift weights, but I'm going to be faster than you because you run. So all the Eternals actually have the same abilities, the same powers. It's just they decide to kind of lean on something particular more. And that's the big secret about them. And also, too, they're perfect in how they are made. So they're stuck in that time when the Celestials picked them, I'm talking about from the comic book, because that's how they were made. They were made to be perfect from the door. There is no better to be than them. They can increase their own abilities, but they have all the things they will ever need physically. And there's a reason why I'm bringing that up. But that's going to be in a spoiler. I made a decision that I am going to do a spoiler video for the things that I had blaring issues with, and the thing that I'm not really seeing, at least from what I looked. I didn't look all over the place, but I haven't really seen anyone talk about per se, but I'm going to talk about it from a I'm probably going to talk about it more from a comic book fan point of view. Okay, because I've actually read all the different, like, Eternals. I have some comics where they were in them. The only one, the funny thing is, the only one I don't actually physically own is the Neil Gaiman one, but I read it digitally. And there are some things that some fans are possibly complaining about, so I want to clear something up. This movie has the sense of woke to it, and I know recently AOC said something about, oh, only old people say woke. No, nice try, no. And I like AOC, but no. We're also going to establish something right now. Makkari is not faster than the Flash. I need all these actors to stop talking about their characters if they don't know their characters outside of their film thing. But even in live action format, the TV show Flash ran so fast he ran into another dimension, as well as ran through time. The movie Flash, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it by now, but should have, ran through time, reversed time, and he too has ran through another dimension. Makkari has ran about the speed of sound from what I've seen in those movies. Like, she's not even on par with the comic book counterpart, the Makkari the Man, the comic book counterpart. Now, here is something I am going to explain. I can't remember. I think there's another character that did this too, but I know Sprite did this. Now, this is for the comic book fans who are getting upset, but trust me, I'm still upset with you, but I want to clear the air about something, because the little bit I did hear, I don't think you're upset about the right part, but you're on the right path. The Eternals, if you actually read all the Eternal stuff, Sprite changes their gender. Sprite was a guy for a bit. That's why Sprite was Puck in Midnight Summer's Dream, and I think was inspiration in the comics for Peter Pan. But Sprite also, by the time Neil Gaiman's run, woke up as a girl. Now, I think there was one other Eternal that also woke up as a female. Like, they decided to switch. I think there was one other. And what happens is that the way Eternals work, and they work similar in these movies, but a little bit differently. Also, too, I didn't know if I really liked that either, how they did it, because the best way I could put it is in the movie, and I'm trying not to spoil it, because now I'm going to do a spoiler video. They're more like automatons in the movie, which technically they kind of are in the comic, but a little different. Where in the comics, they have the engine that keeps rebirthing them if something was to happen, which I think they kind of got rid of that for the movie, or they changed it so it wouldn't be as easy in the movie if anybody, dies or anything. So they kind of did, like in the comics, they did that. And I think what would happen is, as their memories, as they would get restored, they would start to become Eternals again. It was like whatever they were thinking is how their physical body would be. Another thing I did not like about the movie, and I know I'm talking about a lot of things I don't like. We'll get to some things more things I do like. They kind of got rid of characters, and even though the characters played their parts in the movies, they didn't, in a sense. They became one-dimensional in another aspect. Icarus, for example, they changed his character up, which that's not fully who his character was. They took like the loyalty aspect of him to like another degree, but they dumbed down his other stuff. They dumbed down Cersei, where Cersei is a little bit more, because the Eternals have been around so long, they're a little bit more open about lovers and stuff like that, and they kind of did that, but they kind of made that more secluded, and that's not how the Eternals fully operate, which was kind of weird. So but they did it for story purposes. But the problem is that I don't think the story purposes merits what they were. And in doing so, the movie felt like they were trying to be Marvel, or trying to break away from being a Marvel film. But then the other issue is they were definitely being a Marvel film. Like, there's times it would just go. And I think that's been one of my main problems with Marvel lately for their movies. It's like they're not, the formula to me is starting to wear off. And I think it's starting to wear off even in the film itself, or the movies themselves, because even during these, this pandemic kind of times, we have movies that are blowing it out the box office or doing at least decent or anything. And the Marvel films, and I'm not talking about the Sony Marvel films either, I'm talking about the regular Marvel films, they're not cutting it. Like, they're kicking off okay, but they're not. And Eternals is proof, because it underperformed. Like, they at least will blow out the box office, and they're not. And they're trying to celebrate these things, yet it's not. It's just not. So what I did like, the cinematography, when they got into some of the slower points in the lore, was actually pretty interesting. How they played up them in the histories, and they kind of referenced some things. Those were okay. The characterizations were still good. Like Kumail Nanjiani, his character was completely wrong, but for the movie, he did do a very great job. He was very funny. He worked really well in some degrees. They also did this like metaphor thing in the movie that bothered me. I know it's like I'm ragging on the movie, but there was just a lot of things they kind of did off. But look wise, it was fine. I don't think the movie is as bad as the critics said it was. Like, it's layered, but the movie is enjoyable. Like, to me, it's better than Captain Marvel. And that's my barometer. Captain Marvel is pretty much the worst Marvel film that they've practically ever done, next to Inhumans. And no, I don't care. Y'all Marvel shills can sit there and go, but that was IMAX. I don't care. MCU's name was on it. It's a failure. It was their first failure. Deal with it. So, this movie was enjoyable. There's a lot of issues I have from a comic book fan point of view, and they also did do some things that I hate to say. They did it for diversity's sake. It just was. I get why they casted some of the people, because they wanted to represent the world, but at the same time, it still felt a little forced in that SJW woke area, and I think the movie suffered for it. Like I said, beautifully shot. The story is pretty cohesive. The bad guys, which are the deviants, you get interested in it. Like, they have Deviant Crow in there, who's a big deviant from the comics, and they really didn't. Look, this is going to be a spoilers or not, but you need to know this. You want to know more about the deviants because they're actually interesting, the little bits they give you, but they don't really do much with them. They're kind of there as a side piece, almost like the Skrulls to a degree, and it was kind of annoying because that's a big thing for the Eternals, and they could have played that up and did a story with that, but instead they used it to try to skip to a couple things. They took stuff from Earth-X, and they took stuff from Neil Gaiman's run, and it's just kind of weird that they skip jumped, and then they nerfed another big thing that really got, like, I was like, what are you doing? But it was to like set another thing up. And like I said, my spoiler thing, I'm going to tell you why. But basically, yeah. So, if you are a person who does not know that much about Eternals, is this movie okay for you? Yeah, it's okay. My personal rating for it, now, because I really want Don Lee to break into the American market more, I think the guy is just amazing, and he did a great job. Thena, that relationship, it was excellent. So, like I said, for the characterizations for what they did in the movie was good. It just wasn't as great comparatively to the comic, but what they did was good, and they accomplished what they wanted, and I give them credit for that. As well as, you know, Salma being Ajak was very interesting how she played that character, even though that character is a man, in the comics and stuff. So I was contemplating on saying the movie needed more bacon, but I had an okay time, so I guess we could say it's a good time. But I feel like they could have did more, and they could have executed it better. It almost felt like there was 3 movies and an extra movie in this movie, and they executed it enough to be cohesive. But I'll put it to you like this: if this wasn't a part of the MCU, I don't think a lot of people would have watched this movie. It also, even though it was okay, the movie didn't need to be as long as it was by any stretch, and they kind of jumped around a little. It's easy to follow, and it's not so bad that it's confusing for a lot of people. Me, I never get confused with those, but it could have focused a little more. The movie could have handled some more focus. The acting was good. The action was fine. I'm going to say for my rating that even though I got enjoyment out of the movie and everything, I'm going to have to say it's a sinking ship, because for everything I like, there was too much wokeness, and I'll get to it in the spoiler thing. The CG, when it was good, but some of it was really wonky when I thought about it. But other parts were good. When it stood out, it was good. But if you catch it, there's these moments where it's like, huh? The fighting was nice. It's going to sound weird. It was nice to look at, but felt choreographed. Like, it was cool to see them do, but they wouldn't, like, get it in. It was like, me punch hard, me I-beam, hit. It wasn't like, yeah, I got these techniques. It was very 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, dodge, 1, 2, 3, dodge. Okay, let me do this kind of thing. But it wasn't bad for the movie and what they did, if it makes sense. Also, I had an issue that a lot of the Eternals seemed like they really couldn't fight. But I'm like, how did you guys handle the Deviants when some of you seemed like you really couldn't do much? And I guess they were the crowd control. So after thinking about it, I kept weighing it in between everything, but I'm sick of the SJW thing. Even though I got enjoyment out of this movie, it wasn't enough. And I'm not letting Marvel slide with this anymore. If you do this nonsense, my ratings are going to get worse. And as much as I love Salma Hayek, and as much as I love Don Lee, and I think some of those actors did well, especially the one that played Sprite, now it has to be a sinking ship. And when I get to my spoiler review, you'll see why. For anything I could have liked about this, there's some mess in it too that I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with this agenda crap like this, especially when it's this kind of lackluster. Overall, I can watch the movie again and be like, okay, this is fine, but that's it. Needs to start picking it up, because they're starting to get worse with these as each movie comes out. And I definitely need to finish off and do the TV shows too. Geek Protagonist, you stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real. And the spoiler video will be coming. See ya.